This is Wendy Daniels with Revolutionary PE, and this is gymnastics. Today we're showing our gymnastics stations. This station is cartwheel. Kindergarten and first grade, we put a mat that has hands and feet print. And then what we do is we have someone come up. Very good, and this is a progression. And then the next time you would try to kick a little harder. So as we have older students progressing, then they can come up and they kick over in their cartwheel. And we have the line there to practice like being on a balance. For the older students, you'll notice that we move the mat down to the end, and then we ask the students to do as many cartwheels as they can and to keep practicing. So they could keep going. When they get close to the mat, they could use the mat and cartwheel over the mat. Awesome. Also, if you're going to spot someone in a cartwheel, you actually, can you cartwheel this direction? Yeah. Yes. So you cross your arms, and when your arms are crossed, you grab them above their hips. Wait, I gotta do it the other way. Okay, ready? And she cartwheels, and then my arms are uncrossed. So that way you could just keep them from falling on their heads. All right, so when you're spotting for cartwheel, your arms are in this position at their hips, and then as they turn, you are unfolding. So you go from, so if you pretend you're holding them and then just cross and then uncross, that's how you would spot them for cartwheel. For balance beam on kindergarten, we just go forward on the high beam. So the instructions are to look at the end of the balance beam, not at your feet, have your arms out for balance. And then for the older kids, they have to walk backwards. So they feel with their toe, and they, besides going forward, they would go backwards, making sure maybe the person behind them and themselves, when they get close to the end, they tell them. If they step off, they get to get right back on and finish what they were doing. So just from the point you were, you don't get to start over. So, and then when you jump off, can you stick your landing like a gymnast? So you jump off, lift your arms in victory. Awesome. Okay, and then on the smaller beam, we would go, they would get in line and they would do side steps. So they're just working, this is kinder. So kinder and first are working just keeping their balance and also going sideways. Okay, and we always make the rule that you go once at a time, and when we jump off, we stick our landing and jump in victory. Okay, awesome, very nice, ladies. Okay, at our back bend station, we always start with a stretch. So we tell them that the mats are put into rectangles. Everyone gets their own rectangle. That's their own space. And we ask them, our safety rules in gymnastics are we never put weight on our head or neck. We always have strong arms, and we never push or touch others because we don't want to injure someone. It's all about safety. So girls, can you show me your wheel, not putting weight on your head or neck? So they lift their pelvis up, reaching underneath, and then they come down when they feel ready. So we come down. Then we ask for them to show us reindeer ears. So reindeer ears, they start here, then they put their hands back by their ears. Our reindeer antlers, we played reindeer antler tag, we just learned at Tapered. And they push up into their back bend, never putting weight on their head or neck. And they come down when they feel comfortable. They don't have to stay in that position. All right, and come on down, girls. You're great. And then we use a barrel mat. And at this mat, I'm gonna turn this way for you to see. I have them line up, and they can actually stretch if they want, or they can line up if they feel ready. But when they're ready, I have my first student come. All right, so when we do our back bend, I ask them to put their hands up. They're looking behind them, and they're trusting me. And I put one hand here, even though they don't need the mat, and I ask them to look over their head, feel with their legs, and then they're going to kick. I put one hand on the shoulder here to make sure. Kick when you're ready. I know the mat's moving on you. It's meant for kinder. Ready? 1, 2, 3, kick.
That's hard on the mat.
It is. Would you like, and then I offer, would you like to do it without the mat?
Yes.
So, and then I put one hand here just for safety. I watch them, one hand on their shoulder. She didn't need my help, so I know the next time she comes that I can let her do it by herself. For kinder and first, we do standing splits. So she puts her hands on the ground. She can start with 2 hands on the ground, lift a leg, and then she lifts her opposite hand to keep her balance and counts to 8. Great job. And then she would switch and do the other side. She could take a little break if she needs to. And then opposite hand, try opposite. Very nice. You're doing a great job. Younger kids are doing standing splits. The older students stretch and work on their own splits. So they stretch out. They do stretch both sides. I do allow them to remove their shoes if they'd like at this station. And then they can work on their middle splits and they can work on their side splits. You want to make sure that no one is ever putting their hands on another person and pushing on them or being silly. This is a difficult station for boys. They don't want to work on their splits, and honestly, we just want them just to stretch. So we give an alternate activity where they do balance boards. So balance board is where they can go when they're done with their splits, and everyone can get in on a balance board, and they make sure they bend their knees, they step with one side then the other, they can twist, they can try to keep their balance, and they're never pushing others, just having a good time working on their balance. When you're spotting someone, you have them step on the mat, stand on the mat. We're going to remind them to keep their chin to their chest, that they're putting their weight on their upper back, not on their head. Safety is always no weight on our head. Strong arms. She's going to look through her legs at the person behind her. You put one hand here at the neck and one hand here about at her knees or where her thighs meet, and you ask her to look through and roll. And then if she can keep going. Not on her head. Tuck your chin. You look good. All right, can you come to my mountain? And she stands on top of the mountain. This gives them a little bit of momentum to get them through their roll. So she looks through her legs again. You're still watching, and you let her roll. And you're just there for protection. As they get heavier, it becomes more dangerous. So you might ask them just to lay down and do a log roll. So can you come show them a log roll? So she would lay down on the mat, feet off the mat, and she lays like a hot dog. Can you lay this way? Feet this way, arms at her side, and then she rolls this way. See how far you can roll. Awesome. Clap for her. On the springboard, right where the spring is, we put yellow tape, and then that signifies that your toes should be there. We only have one set of springs on this board, so it's less springy than other professionals. We're not a gymnastics gym, we're a PE class. So they have to get closer to the spring to get more bounce. And jumps up, raising their arms, down, up, raising your arms, perfect, down, up, and then onto the board and into the target, victory. Awesome, and goes to the end of the line. For first grade, we add a mat because what we're trying to do is get them to spring upward. All right, ready, ladies? Here we go. Up, swing your arms with power. Good, up, very nice. Up, and then onto the springboard, and victory. All right, awesome. And
For the first round, you want to have them walk, jump, put their arms up at the end, stick their landing. Then for the second round, they will walk back. The time they will run, jump off the springboard to get higher, stick their landing, and then...
And we can wait for that one. Okay, ready? Can you guys do that first? What do you want to do? Okay, so you're going to run. Good. Next. Good. Next. Good. All right, next. Good. Next. Next. Good. Nice. Plant, though, when you come down, I want you to plant. Don't hang from it, okay? Just touch it and come down on the mat. Nice. Try to land to, still stick your landing. Nice, if the mat's cooperated. And they climb up the wall with their feet and they climb down with their feet. And they don't have to go quite that high. We just work on upper body strength and not falling on our face. When we get to the older students, by only holding one leg, I tell them not to kick up too hard. They can touch one leg, try to get them to hold it, and then let them come down. And then they would switch, and the other person would get a chance to do it. So again, hands up, stepping a little closer on the mat so you're not too far from the wall. And they put their hands up, kick up, and one person holds a leg and let them come down. Great job. On day 2, we try to make some slight changes to our station. So for instance, at the forward roll, it becomes the straddle roll and also the backwards roll. And you could also work on the safety roll. So first they straddle their legs on the mat, especially if they're beginners, and they put their hands on the mat, and then it's a tuck their head and roll. So they roll, bring their feet together, stand up, and they keep going. So great job. Then we would have the backwards roll. On the backwards roll, you squat, have them squat, hands on the mat. They're using their hands and their feet. To spot in this, you're actually going to push their ankle. So you ask them to tuck their chin, and that they're going to forcefully roll backwards like an egg, and then they roll back. And then they can continue on their own. This one is much safer for their neck than having them doing the forward roll. So
when you start a backward roll, you put your hands on the ground to push off, and then when you roll backwards, you want to put your hands by your ears to support your neck.
Yay! On a safety roll, we want to teach students that if they're falling on the track or somewhere in the gym, they never want to catch themselves with their hands. They could break their arms. It's also similar to a football roll or parkour. So the student pretends they're falling, making a kind of a diamond with their hands, and they tuck their head and their arms and do a shoulder roll. Can you? Good. So he doesn't really put weight on his hands. He just tucks and rolls. Great job. On the balance beam, on day 2, we try to change it up and throw in the teak where we're working on balance. So the first person with the older kids, we are walking on the beam. And when they get to the middle, they're holding a balance pose of their choice. So that it could be a squat with their leg up, or they could just lift a leg with their arms out. And they count to 8, and they try to keep that pose. Very nice. And then they walk to the end, and they go to the lower beam, and they work on their backwards walking. So they're stepping backwards, feeling with their toe. So you could have 2 people going at the same time, but you shouldn't have more than one person on the beam. Teachers' tips for gymnastics. Use Sign Up Genius and get some parent volunteers in your gym just for eyes. They don't need to have their hands on the students, but that frees you up as a teacher to be a good spotter and to cover those stations. And I just would like to remind you, any students that you have that have Down syndrome really shouldn't be doing gymnastics. If you really want to give them experience, they can still do the stretching stations, the balance beam. But anything that could cause any stress to their neck is very dangerous. If with an aid, you want the two of you to spot them, but they should never do a forward or backward roll ever. And a back bend is very risky. So for me, those are not stations that are best for those students. The last thing is, as a teacher who is spotting for gymnastics, it's physically exhausting. So if you have large class sizes and you're seeing as many students as we are, we see them every other day. So we do 2 days 1 week, like Wednesday, Thursday, and then we have the weekend for a break and recovery, and then we do our second day of gymnastics on Monday, Tuesday. And this just helps us physically so we aren't cranky when we're teaching our lessons and we're keeping them safe. Have fun. For a full year of lesson plans and games like this, get lesson plans for elementary PE on Amazon now.